The Silent Guardians. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Archive stretched toward the violet sky of Nexus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Deep within the archive's restricted section, senior archaeologist Zora Van's appendages trembled as she studied the ancient data crystal. After 15 cycles of searching, she had finally found it. Proof of humanity's greatest secret. Administrator Kelks needs to see this immediately, she whispered to herself, carefully securing the crystal in a quantum-shielded container. The corridors of the archive were empty at this late hour, her footsteps echoing off walls embedded with the collected knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. The administrator's chamber was a sphere of pure light, suspended high above the archive's main floor. As Zara entered, Kelks's bioluminescent form shifted from its rest state, forming into a rough approximation of a humanoid shape. This had better be important. Senior archaeologist, Kelks's thoughts resonated directly in Zora's mind. The restricted section is off-limits without prior authorization. Zara placed the container on the floating platform between them. I found evidence of why the humans withdrew from galactic society. It wasn't fear or isolationism. They're protecting us from something. The light around Kelks dimmed slightly, a sign of intense interest among their species. Explain. 3,000 years ago, humanity didn't just achieve technological supremacy. They discovered something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. But instead of using it to dominate, they chose to become guardians. Zara activated the data crystal, and holographic images filled the chamber. The images showed massive structures on distant worlds, each bearing the same marking. A stylized human hand holding what appeared to be a star. These are vaults, Zora continued, scattered across the galaxy, hiding technologies that humanity deemed too dangerous for anyone to possess. The humans didn't retreat. They're standing watch. Preposterous, Kelks pulsed. No species would voluntarily give up such power. That's just it. Zora's voice rose with excitement. They didn't give it up. They're still out there, maintaining these vaults, ensuring these technologies never fall into the wrong hands. And I found references to something they called Project Prometheus, the biggest vault of all. The chamber's temperature dropped several degrees as Kelks processed this information. Why reveal this now? Zora's expression darkened. Because someone else has found out. The Craven Consortium has been tracking down these vaults. They don't understand what they're dealing with, but they're getting closer to Project Prometheus. If they breach it. She left the sentence unfinished. How many know about this? Kelks demanded. Just us, for now. But the consortium's getting bolder. They've already attempted to breach 2 minor vaults in the past cycle. It's only a matter of time before. A deep rumble shook the archive, causing the light in the chamber to flicker. Warning sirens began to wail throughout the complex. Zara rushed to the chamber's observation window, her heart stopping at what she saw. Massive ships were descending through Nexus Prime's atmosphere, their hulls bearing the distinctive crimson markings of the Craven Consortium. But what caught her attention was the smaller ship leading them, its design unmistakably human. They're here, she breathed. Both of them. The Hunters and the Guardians. Kelks's form expanded, filling the chamber with brilliant light. Initiate emergency protocols. Lock down all restricted sections and... Another explosion rocked the archive. Closer this time. Through the chaos, Zora heard something she never expected. Human voices, speaking in their ancient tongue. The Guardians hadn't just sent a ship. They were here in person. The game of cat and mouse was over. The Silent Guardians were about to reveal why some secrets were better left buried, and why humanity's long vigil had been necessary all along. As alarms blared and shadows of battle played across the archive's crystalline walls, Zora clutched the data crystal close. She had wanted to uncover humanity's greatest secret, but now she feared she was about to witness it firsthand. Breaking the seal. Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Guardianship watched the archive's security feeds with growing concern. The Craven Consortium forces were moving with unexpected precision, heading straight for the vault's lowest levels. Someone had given them inside information. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Her second-in-command, Marcus Rodriguez, pulled up a holographic display of the archive's layout. "They've breached the outer security rings. 23 hostiles, using some kind of quantum-dampening tech to bypass our standard defenses. They know what they're doing, Commander." Sarah's jaw tightened. After centuries of protecting humanity's most dangerous secrets, their worst fear was becoming reality. And the package? Still secure in Vault 0. But Marcus hesitated, his dark eyes reflecting the red emergency lights. "They brought a cipher." Sarah's blood ran cold. Ciphers were living quantum computers, beings engineered to crack any code, break any security system. The consortium must have spent decades creating one capable of challenging human encryption. They weren't just raiders, they were prepared for this specific mission. Through the massive windows of the command center, Sarah watched as another explosion lit up the archive's lower levels. The Craven forces were getting closer to their goal, Project Prometheus, humanity's darkest discovery. "Commander." A young guardian burst into the room, his armor scorched from recent combat. "We've captured one of their advanced teams. You need to see this." In the detention area, a wounded Craven warrior lay strapped to an interrogation table. Unlike the rest of their species' characteristic blue scales, this one's skin was mottled with patches of black, as if something was eating away at their very essence. "By the stars," Marcus whispered. "They're already infected." Sarah approached the prisoner, noting how their eyes seemed to shift color, like oil on water. "How long have you been experimenting with the vault technologies?" The Craven's laugh was hollow, almost mechanical. "Long enough to know your species are cowards. All that power, and you hide it away. We'll put it to better use." "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Sarah replied, keeping her voice level. "The vaults don't contain weapons or tools. They contain mistakes, lessons learned at terrible cost." Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. The prisoner's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed to phase in and out of reality. "The cipher has almost reached the main vault. Soon, Project Prometheus will be ours, and we'll—" The Craven's words cut off as their bodies suddenly convulsed. Their scales began to ripple, becoming transparent in places, showing glimpses of something impossible beneath, spaces that shouldn't exist, geometries that hurt to look at. "Containment protocols," Sarah shouted, but it was too late. The prisoner's form collapsed in on itself, leaving behind a hole in reality, a window into something that human scientists had discovered centuries ago and immediately locked away. They've been using scavenged tech from the minor vaults, Marcus realized, his face pale. But they can't control it. The quantum degradation is already starting. Sarah's communicator crackled with static. "Commander, the cipher has breached the outer doors of Vault 0. They're attempting to access Project Prometheus. Lock down everything." Sarah ordered, already running toward the vault complex. "Initiate Protocol Omega. If they access those files, if they try to replicate what we found." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone in the guardianship knew what was at stake. 3,000 years ago, humanity had discovered something about the fundamental nature of reality, something that had nearly destroyed everything. They had sealed it away, appointed themselves its guardians, withdrawn from galactic society to focus on this one crucial task. And now, thanks to the Craven's arrogance, it was about to break free again. As Sarah and her team raced through the archive's winding corridors, emergency barriers slamming shut behind them, she could already feel it. A subtle wrongness in the air, a feeling that space itself was beginning to unravel. The consortium didn't just want to steal advanced technology. They wanted to understand why humanity had locked it away. They were about to find out, and the price of that knowledge would be beyond their darkest nightmares. Ripples in reality. The first signs that something had gone catastrophically wrong weren't visible to the naked eye. In the quantum observation chamber of the Archive's science wing, Dr. Elena Santos watched as reality itself began to fray. "The quantum fabric is destabilizing," she reported, her hands flying over the holographic controls. "Whatever the cipher downloaded from Project Prometheus, they're trying to replicate it, and they're failing spectacularly." Around her, the air rippled like heat waves over desert sand. Objects began casting shadows in directions that shouldn't exist. Through the chamber's windows, she could see the three suns of Nexus Prime setting in different directions simultaneously, a physical impossibility that made her head ache to observe. Commander Chen burst into the lab, followed by Marcus and a team of heavily armed guardians. "Status report." "The Cravens didn't just steal data," Elena explained, pulling up a three-dimensional model of the spreading anomaly. "They tried to copy the quantum algorithms we discovered 3 millennia ago, the ones that proved reality itself is programmable." Sarah's face darkened. "The universe engine." "Yes, but they don't have the safeguards, the containment protocols we developed. Each time they attempt to use it." Elena gestured at her displays, where red warning indicators were multiplying like cancer cells. Through the quantum feeds, they watched as the first Craven ships attempting to flee the system simply ceased to exist, not exploding, not disappearing, but somehow becoming things that had never been ships at all. One vessel transformed into a crystalline structure that sang in frequencies that drove its crew mad. Another became a cloud of mathematical equations given physical form. "It's spreading faster than last time," Marcus observed, his voice tight. "The quantum entanglement effect is exponential now," Elena finished. "The Cravens linked their quantum networks together, trying to process the data faster. Instead, they've created a cascade effect. The corruption is spreading through their entire civilization." On the main display, they watched as entire Craven worlds began to change. Cities rearranged themselves into impossible geometries. Oceans began flowing upward. Living beings found themselves existing in multiple states simultaneously, their consciousness scattered across dozens of quantum possibilities. "We need to contain this," Sarah declared. "Initiate the Lazarus Protocol." Elena's blood ran cold. "Commander, we've never tested it on this scale. The energy requirements alone." "We don't have a choice." Sarah's voice carried the weight of centuries of guardianship. "This is exactly why we created the protocol. Why we've spent 3,000 years preparing for this possibility." She turned to her team. "Humanity withdrew from galactic society not out of fear or arrogance, but because we needed to focus all our resources on creating a failsafe, a way to repair reality itself if our discovery ever broke free again." Through the windows, they could see more ships arriving. Not Craven vessels, but the sleek, dark shapes of humanity's hidden fleet. Each one carried a piece of the Lazarus Protocol, a quantum reset switch built over millennia of secret preparation. "Contact the Sol Concordat," Sarah ordered. "Tell them to activate all Guardians. We're going to need every quantum-certified human operator we have." She paused, watching as another section of space twisted itself into an impossible knot. "And send word to the archivists. Tell them to record everything. The galaxy needs to understand why we hid this knowledge away." As the human fleet moved into position, Elena's sensors detected something new, a pulse of energy from deep within Craven space. The cipher had managed to partially decode more of Project Prometheus's secrets. Reality buckled under the strain of amateur gods trying to rewrite its laws. "Multiple quantum breaches detected," Elena shouted. "They're trying to rewrite fundamental constants. If they succeed." "They won't," Sarah stated firmly. "Humanity has guarded this secret for 3,000 years. We've planned for this moment, prepared for it, built our entire civilization around preventing it." She activated the fleet-wide comm system. "All ships, prepare for quantum synchronization. We're about to show the galaxy why some knowledge comes with too high a price." As the human fleet began its carefully choreographed dance around the spreading chaos, Alina couldn't help but wonder, would the cure prove as devastating as the disease? The Lazarus Protocol was humanity's ultimate failsafe, but using it would reveal everything they'd spent millennia hiding. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had chosen silence over power, guardianship over dominion. And the lesson would be written in the quantum fabric of reality itself. The Awakening. Admiral James Chen watched from the bridge of the Guardian Fleet's flagship Hyperion as reality continued to unravel around them. The ship's quantum shielding strained against waves of impossibility radiating from craven space. Lazarus Protocol initialization at 60%, reported his quantum systems officer, Lieutenant Maya Patel. Her hands danced across controls that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. All ships report ready for synchronization. Through the viewport, James could see the rest of the fleet arranged in a perfect geodesic sphere around the affected zone. 300 ships, each carrying technology that had been refined and perfected over 3 millennia of secret development. The largest mobilization of human forces since the species had withdrawn from galactic affairs. Signal from the surface, Maya announced. Commander Chen is requesting priority channel. Sarah's hologram materialized on the bridge, her expression grim. Admiral, the situation has escalated. The cipher isn't just copying our old data anymore. They're trying to improve upon it. Impossible, James replied, but even as he spoke, his quantum sensors told a different story. The Craven's desperate experiments had stumbled onto something new, something not even humanity had discovered in their original research. Look at these readings, Sarah continued, sending data to the fleet. They're not just rewriting local spacetime anymore. They're creating recursions, loops in reality itself. The sensor displays showed it clearly. Entire star systems were being caught in temporal knots, experiencing the same moments over and over but slightly different each time. Natural laws were becoming suggestions rather than rules. Launch the quantum anchors, James ordered. Across the fleet, massive devices that looked like crystalline snowflakes deployed from each ship. These were humanity's masterwork, technology designed not to change reality, but to hold it steady against change. Anchors deployed, beginning quantum harmonization. The space between the ships began to glow with a light that wasn't quite light, more like the visible manifestation of mathematics itself. This was the true face of Project Prometheus, not a weapon or a tool, but a fundamental understanding of reality's source code. New contact. Maya's voice rose with alarm. Multiple Craven ships attempting to breach the containment sphere. They're different. Different was an understatement. The approaching vessels seemed to shift between states of matter, their forms suggesting shapes that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Crew members who looked through the viewports directly at them reported headaches and temporary memory loss. They've merged with their machines, Sarah realized. The cipher's attempts to rewrite reality are affecting them on a quantum level. They're becoming something new. Something wrong, James corrected. This is exactly why we locked this knowledge away. Reality wasn't meant to be rewritten by beings who don't understand its full complexity. The altered Craven ships opened fire, but their weapons had become as twisted as they were. Some shots simply ceased to exist halfway to their targets. Others arrived before they were fired. One beam struck a human vessel and transformed it into pure music before the quantum anchors could restore it. Lazarus Protocol at 80%, Maya reported. But sir, we're detecting quantum entanglement between the protocol and the Craven experiments. If we activate it now, we might make things worse, Sarah finished. The recursions they've created, our reset could multiply them instead of erasing them. James studied the tactical display, watching as more of reality succumbed to quantum corruption. They had planned for this moment for 3,000 years, but the Cravens had managed to stumble onto something new, something that changed the rules of the game entirely. New plan, he declared. Lieutenant Patel, reconfigure the quantum anchors. Instead of trying to reset reality, We're going to stabilize it. Create a framework that can contain both normal space-time and these new recursions. Sir, that's never been attempted. Maya protested. The computational requirements alone are exactly why we built this fleet, James countered. Humanity didn't spend 3 millennia hiding. We spent it preparing, not just to prevent this knowledge from being misused, but to be ready to handle it when someone eventually did. The fleet began to move, reconfiguring its formation into something more complex. The quantum anchors adjusted their frequencies, their light changing to something deeper, more fundamental. This wasn't the solution they had planned for, but it was the one they had trained for. The ability to adapt, to understand, to solve problems that threatened the very fabric of existence. As the altered Craven ships approached, as reality itself hung in the balance, humanity prepared to reveal just how far they had come in their long isolation. They were no longer just guardians of a terrible secret. They were about to become surgeons operating on the universe itself. Price of knowledge. Dr. Elena Santos stood in the quantum observation chamber, watching as two versions of reality battled for dominance. The corrupted space-time of the Craven experiments clashed against the stabilizing framework being erected by the human fleet, creating aurora-like waves of probability that stretched across light years. The quantum anchors are at maximum capacity, she reported, her voice steady despite the strain showing on her face. We're barely containing the recursions. On the main display, they watched as another Craven world succumbed to the chaos. Its surface rippled like water, buildings and creatures caught in endless loops of transformation. The Cipher's attempts to improve upon Project Prometheus had created something that defied comprehension, a cancer in reality itself. We need more power. Admiral Chen's hologram flickered as quantum interference increased. The containment field won't hold much longer. Commander Sarah Chen studied the readings, her expression hardening as she came to a decision. We're approaching this wrong. We've spent 3,000 years trying to prevent this knowledge from being used. But now that it's loose, she turned to Elena. Show them. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she accessed the deepest layers of Project Prometheus's data. What we discovered wasn't just the ability to rewrite reality. We found its source code, and with it, a message. The chamber's displays filled with patterns that seemed to shift between mathematical equations and alien text. The universe isn't just a collection of physical laws, Elena explained. It's a program. And we weren't the first species to discover this. The implications hit everyone like a physical force. Admiral Chen's hologram straightened. You mean? Yes, Sarah confirmed. We found the signatures of previous civilizations in reality's base code. They all discovered this truth, and they all tried to use it. The results, she gestured at the chaos-consuming Craven space, were always the same. But we were different, Elena continued. Instead of trying to exploit this knowledge, humanity chose to become its guardians. We didn't withdraw from the galaxy out of fear. We withdrew to study, to understand, to prepare for this moment. Through the quantum feeds, they watched as the altered Craven ships pressed their attack against the human fleet. Each vessel was now a unique violation of physics, their weapons rewriting chunks of space-time with every shot. Admiral, Sarah's voice carried the weight of centuries. Execute Protocol Genesis. James Chen's hologram showed surprise for the first time. That's not a reset protocol. No, Sarah agreed. It's what we spent 3,000 years developing. The ability not to fight reality's code, but to work with it, to become part of the program itself. Elena activated a sequence she had hoped would never be necessary. Across the human fleet, quantum anchors began to pulse with new energy, but instead of trying to contain the chaos, they began to resonate with it. We're not going to reset reality or contain the damage, Elena explained as the chamber filled with light that wasn't quite light. We're going to teach it how to heal itself. The effect began slowly at first. Where the quantum anchor's influence reached, the chaotic recursions didn't disappear. They stabilized. The twisted Craven ships found their transformations not reversed, but integrated into a new framework of reality that could accommodate their impossible forms. "My God," Admiral Chen whispered, "we're not fighting the change. We're evolving with it." This was humanity's true mission, Sarah declared, not to prevent the discovery of reality's source code, but to be ready when it happened, to guide the galaxy through the transformation we knew would eventually come. The chamber's displays showed the effect spreading. Quantum corruption became quantum evolution. Worlds caught in temporal loops found new equilibrium. The Cipher's desperate attempts to improve upon Project Prometheus were absorbed into the greater pattern humanity had spent millennia preparing. "Signal from the Craven worlds," Elena reported. "The recursions are stabilizing. They're beginning to understand." Through the quantum feeds, they could see it happening. The Cravens weren't being destroyed or reset. They were being transformed, not into monsters, but into something new, something that could exist in a universe where reality itself had evolved. "Send the message," Sarah ordered, "to every species, every world. It's time they knew the truth." As Elena transmitted humanity's long-prepared explanation across the galaxy, she reflected on the price of knowledge. The Cravens had sought to steal the power to rewrite reality, never understanding that the true power lay not in changing the universe's code, but in helping it grow. Humanity had chosen the harder path, not conquerors, not hidden cowards, but patient gardeners of reality itself. They had waited 3,000 years for this moment, preparing not to prevent change, but to guide it. As the new dawn spread across space-time, as species across the galaxy began to understand their place in reality's greater program, humanity finally stepped back into the light, not as warriors or victims, but as teachers, ready to help the galaxy understand the true price and purpose of knowledge.